All right, everybody, how are you doing out there? Welcome to Lions Talk Live on location at Stadium Drive Liquor Store in Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is our NFC North live breakdown, and we've got Peter. Peter, why don't you tell us a little bit about your channel? He's going to be representing the Vikings and an infamous YouTuber. So give us a little info on you.
All right, so like you said, I have a small channel, After the Review Sports, where I kind of break down all sports throughout the season, just depending on what's going on. Football is obviously the biggest time of year. Do live streams every Monday night for the Monday Night Football games, just talking about them, watching the games with everybody. I do short stats of the day that everyone seems to kind of like, where I do a new stat every day, so makes you seem smarter. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to get going, talk some NFC North football.
If you're watching right now, just so you know, we do have Mike Kipp from the Kipp Report. He may be joining us a little bit later today. Unfortunately, real life steps in from time to time, and he's got to work. And apparently, he's on the naughty list because he's working late. So, as always, the Sarge, Tony Libretto, joining us. Tony, why don't you give a little shout out and tell everybody why you're here and what you're talking about?
How's it going, everybody? For Lions Talk Live, I like to do those Sunday night live shows, and here I am. He said go to the liquor store, and obviously I'm going to be here for that. So I'm the big Lions fan, or not the big, but we are. But I'm also going to talk about the Bears tonight, because we don't know any Bears fans around here. So I'll break down what their team looks like, and hopefully give you guys some good information.
All right, so let's not keep you guys all waiting. You know the drills. If you're watching on whoever's feed, if you're watching on Peter's feed or Lions Talk Live, if you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscription button. If you would also leave a thumbs up, a like, whatever you want to call it, and throw us some questions in the comment sections below. The more questions we get, more we can interact with you all. All right, without further ado, let's put you on the spot right now, Peter. Let's talk about the Vikings, your boys, NFC North champs a year ago, but a lot of the national media is starting to wonder if you guys can push for the NFC North crown and repeat. Tell us why the Vikings can repeat, why they might not repeat, and what your thoughts are on the Vikings as a whole entering this season.
Oh, so all right. So like you said, Kings of the North, Minnesota Vikings back on top. It's good to be back. A surprising season last year, I think, for a lot of people. I don't know if many people had us jumping out to 13 wins. Of course, we won every one-score game, and that's probably the biggest thing that I think the national media has been hitting on with the Vikings. They're not going to go 8-0 in one-score games again. It's just not going to happen. So that 13 wins is going to fall off. They're going to go 500. My optimism here, and why I think the Vikings have a very strong chance to repeat, is they're not going to be in so many one-score games, hopefully. They can actually put teams away when they need to put teams away. I'm very impressed by the offseason addition of Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator. I've been seeing a lot of good stuff in camp, in the preseason games. I like the blitzing. Our defense is bad. Like, straight up, they're bad. They were a bottom 3 defense last year. We made Daniel Jones look like Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. So no more cover 2, no more soft shell. It's going to be a lot of complex blitzes, putting quarterbacks on their butt, making life difficult. And maybe that'll cover up some of the stink of your secondary not being the best in the world. Get a turnover here. And then we're just going to let that offense cook. Now, speaking of Cook, we lost Dalvin Cook. It's going to be hard to replace that efficiency and numbers that Cook had. We kind of had to tip the Lions, that Barry Sanders type run game where do nothing for 3 plays, hit a home run for 70, and that was that. I think they're looking for a little bit more consistency in the run game. 3rd and 2, we can pick that up. We were last in the league on 3rd and short situations, the most 1-yard or no-yard runs in the NFL last year. So I think they're going to be a little more consistent running the football. And then everybody loves Kirk Cousins. Everybody watched quarterback. Everybody fell in love with just such a nice guy, Kirk Cousins. I think we're going to be good offensively still. Wide receivers good. Jordan Addison, the rookie addition from USC, he looked very good in his first preseason game. And he doesn't have to do much to fill the hole that Thielen left. He was not very productive last year. KJ Wright, still an awesome number 2 guy. So the biggest concerns from this team is, are the defense going to be able to force turnovers, not give up a million points, and can the interior of the offensive line hold up? The schedule's not too bad for a first-place schedule, a little up and down. I know we have a lot of similar games, but not many back-to-back tough games, which is key. And then we have 3 division games to end the season, 2 of them at home. So against the Lions twice and then gets the Packers in between. So pretty comfortable end to the season where hopefully playing for that division title.
Peter, let me ask you a question. your team last year, obviously won a ton of games last second, late drives, etc. But under fire, Kirk Cousins. It seems like no matter what this guy does, it's never enough for fans, Viking fans, whoever it may be. The media doesn't really give him much respect. He's on the last year of his contract. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins?
I go with the numbers say. Now, I get why, just watching that quarterback show, you see Patrick Mahomes, you see Kirk Cousins. Kirk just doesn't quite have that dog, that it factor. He just feels too nice of a guy. But the numbers say he's a top 10 quarterback, and I'll defend that to the day. I think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback, especially if he gets protection. If he gets any sort of protection, he's an elite thrower of the football, let alone under duress, which it feels like he's constantly under with the patchwork interior offensive line. So I think Kirk probably is about 9. I think Kirk's better than Dak, better than the Derek Carr type guys. I think he's probably about 8 or 9 as far as quarterbacks go. The question is, what do we do this year? If we have a down season, don't make the playoffs, Kirk's gone. Like, it's that simple. They're not going to re-sign him. I don't like our GM. I don't think he's very good. I don't think he's a good drafter, and I think he wants to put his fingerprints all over this team. And they're gonna want to get a new quarterback if they don't win games. Now, if we win games, make the playoffs, win the division, Kirk, take a cheap 2-year deal. He says he wants to be a Viking for the rest of your life. Okay, we got to pay Jefferson, Hawkinson. Guys got to get paid to keep you comfortable out there. So I'm riding with Kirk because there's not really a better option. They're not going to be bad enough to get Drake May or Caleb Williams at the top of the draft this year. And are they going to trade Justin Jefferson to go get one of those quarterbacks and start fresh? I'd be pretty upset if they did, but who knows? So I'm riding with Kirk till he proves otherwise.
Okay. Now, when it comes to your team, what would you say are the biggest needs that you guys need to address this year?
Biggest needs, interior offensive line. Like, we got to figure out how to protect and buy some time. There's a lot of monster interior pass rushers in the division, and they're just bad. They're good run blocking interior line. They're just a really bad passing protecting interior line, and we throw the ball a lot. It's that simple. We don't run a whole lot. We run wide receivers out all day and every day. And then the secondary, they got to stay healthy. They got to be able to cover people. Just any sort of improvement from last year is a big, big plus. They were towards the bottom in time of possession again, so teams would go on 14-play drives, eat up the clock, keep our offense on the sideline. And then if a team did need a score down the stretch, 2-minute drill, no problem, walk down the field. Can't have any of that anymore. Just cover people, protect the interior, give Kirk some time. And if we got to score 40 points a game, hopefully that we can do that.
Might have to do just that. All right, so let's move on from the Vikings. Now, we gave you guys a little bit of a breakdown there, and thank you for that, Peter. We're going to move into Detroit. We do have, as you've seen on the screen, the Kip report himself. Mike Kip is here, Kip Bayless. So, Kip, why don't you give us your thoughts on the Lions entering this upcoming season?
Yeah, I would say it's probably the most hype we've had in 20 years, right? I mean, Brad Holmes, since he's came in, I think he's probably been one of the top GMs in the league by far. Building through the draft has always been something he's preached, and I think he's done it even out in LA and even in Detroit. So, obviously to me, Detroit's NFC North frontrunners right now. I still think there's a lot of question marks behind them with Green Bay, depending on the Jordan Love. And then, obviously, how do the Bears mesh with Justin Fields and DJ Moore? And is Chase Claypool going to play in that defense with those big signings they've had? So, to me right now, Detroit's the front runner, but anything can really happen. I mean, who knows? I mean, as you just see, yesterday at a training camp didn't sound great. Jamison Williams went down. So now are we in the market for another wide receiver? So, to me, I still think Detroit's probably the better teams of all four. But, yeah, that's just how I think.
Sarge, you've obviously got a lot of in-depth Lions knowledge. You see what's happened in the wide receiver position the last couple of days. How much of that is a concern if you're Dan Campbell right now getting this team ready for for the regular season, which is now less than 3 weeks away? J-Mo
going down. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, obviously, yeah, he's a number one pick, and he didn't play much at all last year, and he's going to be gone 6 weeks start this year. But we've got a lot of veterans behind St. Brown. Even signing Marvin Jones was huge. If you think back when he played for Detroit the last time, he would bring down almost every 50-50 ball. And I still think he has that. He might not have the elite speed that he had a few years ago, but he's a veteran. He can come right in and be the number 2 guy if he wants. He's going to have to be the number 2 guy. They still have Josh Reynolds on the team. They just signed Khalif Raymond to an extension. He was sneaky really good last year, when it came down to it. So I don't think they need to go out and get another wide receiver at this juncture. They still have, a lot of young guys battling. I think Mims is going to be a steal at the end of the season. We're going to look back and go, man, we didn't give up anything for this guy. Coda had a good preseason game. They still have Drummond, Alexander as the return guy. I mean, he still has to be listed as a wide receiver. So I think our wide receiver depth is better than it looks. And missing JMO, I want to see him on the field, obviously, but I don't think they need to sweat it since he was going to miss 6 games anyway. That hamstring is going to be healed in that amount of time, for sure.
So I would say this: it sounds like St. Brown could be back Monday. My guess is they're going to just let him take his time, let that thing get fully healed, not worry about it in the preseason.
Yeah.
J-Mo, though, on the other hand, I think we all agree this kid needs to get on the field. He needs some real world reps and not just the mental reps. Even though I get that Campbell's pushing it. He's trying to put a positive spin on the fact that this kid just can't get right. We all see the speed he has, but on top of the drops and just one injury after another or one instance after another, they'll start to bring some flags up. So, let's go back to you real quick, Kip. The Lions sound like, if you ask everybody in the national media, that they're the team to beat in the NFC North. They sound like they've got all the parts. They sound like they have depth. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. What worries you the most about the Lions season?
Injuries, man. I mean, I'm glad they went outside of Jared Goff, inside Teddy Bridgewater. That's huge for us. Obviously, anybody knows that went to the preseason game or has been keeping up with them. Nate Sudfeld has not been the guy that they hoped to bring in when they brought him in for the 49ers. I don't even think he'll make it out of the roster. I think he's just going to be cut. But for me, and it's going to play too, that defense, how well are they going to gel early on in the season? Is it going to take time for them? They don't really have time with the schedule that they have. I mean, week 2, they play an underrated Seattle team who I think can compete in the NFC. I don't think they'll be top, but I don't think they'll be bad as they were last year. They've improved. Then they got Atlanta. But, yeah, for me, it's just how quick can this defense, go off? They're already improved up front with some people. They've got, Hutchinson year 2, Levi coming back, things like that. But one injury, maybe 2 injuries with his team can really derail a season. And, you just hope to God that it doesn't happen. I'm hoping we're hitting the injury bug now and we're not going to see it through the season. That's the really only big thing that worries me. And the hype train, is the hype train going to get to him? I mean, they probably walk into training camp every day and see the hype that's around them right now. And it's like, are they feeding it, or are they loving it? So they just kind of got to calm themselves down. Don't let us fans hype them up to a point where they try to show out for us fans. They just need to play ball and everything will come to them,
Tone, if you had to pick one weak spot on the Lions, what are you picking?
That's a tough question.
Dun, no.
I mean, we still got the defensive tackles still have to prove themselves. I think we made a big jump, getting a couple of good guys in there. Hopefully McNeil has the breakout season that he was supposed to have last year. Levi coming back, like Kip said, is a huge thing. And, I don't think there's a weak spot per se like we have had in the past, but if there is one, it's probably just see the defensive tackles, especially in the run game. They're going to need to stop that run. It seemed like last year, especially the Carolina game, it seemed like they just ran up the middle against us and got 15 yards of play. Right. So other than that, I mean, they were saying earlier, the secondary is way better than it was last year, but they haven't played a game together yet. So they're going to, communication is going to be key for them to be successful there. So those are probably the 2 biggest question marks right now. The offense, I think, is fine. I think they're set on offense.
And Peter, before we go on to Green Bay or the Bears, let me get your perspective of the Lions. I mean, obviously you're a Vikings fan, but the Vikings play in the same division. You're on the outside looking at the Detroit Lions. What would you say is your biggest plus for the team and biggest minus?
I think the biggest plus for the team is head coach. I mean, it feels like Campbell get those guys run through a damn wall for him every single weekend. They'll go to war for him. Everybody made fun of the biting kneecaps, but he's just a good old, Aggie boy. That is a huge, huge edge. It also was a big edge that they kept their offensive coordinator and play caller. There was a lot of talk that he was going to go take a new OC job or a head coaching job possibly. So consistency in the offensive play calling is huge, something Goff has to have. Goff's great at home. He wasn't good on the road at all last year until that Green Bay game, the last week of the season. So that's a big question mark. Can we get it? Honestly, the biggest thing going against Detroit is the history. It's been 30 years since they've won a division title. They've made the playoffs 3 times since 2011. So they're not maybe they've made the playoffs. They haven't won a playoff game, obviously, in forever. But 30 years, no division title. I think the Buccaneers won this division more recently than them. So it's a very tall task when history could come up against you. But I think we're right. We're going to find out very early what Detroit's made of. Like, if they come out, get blown out by Kansas City week 1, it's okay, same old Lions. They come out, play Kansas City really tight, really good game. They can lose that game and be like, okay, they're living up to the hype. And if they win that game, I'm petrified. They beat the Chiefs week 1, I'll be like, okay, this is a problem.
All right, I think we've gotten into that a little bit. So let's move on here. Let's talk about the Bears real quick. So, Tone, we gave you the assignment of keeping everybody informed about Chicago. Chicago's coming into the season. Obviously, Justin Fields really turned his career around, you could say, halfway through the season. People were kind of shooting him down a year ago. Now they're talking about, man, this could be the second coming of Jesus. Talk about the Bears. Where are they at? And where do you see them going this season?
All right. I'll start off with Fields. I've said it many times on this show before. I think he's a running back that can throw the ball. They will live and die with him. Everyone thought he was the greatest thing last year. He racked up a ton of running yards and he threw the ball a lot, but they still only won 3 games. So and they had the number 1 pick in the draft. So they were the worst team in the league last year. Yeah, they've gotten a lot better, but it still goes through Fields. And if he's getting 1,000 yards rushing again, they're probably going to win 3 games again. Going on off of Fields, they've got a pretty good offensive team. They picked up more. They have a true number 1 wide receiver for once. They've got Claypool from the Steelers. Mooney's still there, and he's always solid. So they've got some depth. They've got 2 good tight ends because they got Cole Kmet and they went out and got Robert Tonyan from the Packers. So their offensive playmakers are there that they haven't had in a long time. I don't think Khalil Herbert is as good as David Montgomery that we have now. So we've got that going for us. They did pick up Foreman. And he killed us last year again when he was with Carolina. So that's a little nerve-wracking there, but their offensive line was an issue last year. They went out and got their first pick, number 10, was that Darnell Wright. I've read some things. He's not the greatest in camp, but he's not that bad either. He's probably going to be their starting right tackle, regardless of how he does in the preseason, because they picked him number 1, or with their first round pick anyway. So I still think they're going to struggle with the offensive line, and if Justin Fields can stay healthy for 17 straight games,
that would help the Bears a lot.
They might win a couple of more games. I do think they're going to be better than last year. Their defense, they really revamped a lot of players. They picked up 2 stud linebackers in free agency this year, TJ Edwards from Philly, and they got Tremaine Edwards from Buffalo, or not Edmonds, from Buffalo. So those 2 guys are going to make a huge difference for the defense. Their defensive line isn't spectacular, but it's not terrible. And they've got a couple of guys on in the secondary that have been around for a while, so they know what they're doing back there. So their defense has improved last year. it's still probably not quite middle of the pack as far as the whole league is concerned. So I think they're going to be better. They just don't have it yet. They're still a couple of years away, I think, from actually being competitive. But again, Justin Fields all of a sudden, learns how to stay in the pocket and throw the ball more. Maybe they'll be more of a threat to the rest of the division. But other than those guys, I don't know. I don't know if they've done enough to improve enough to win more than probably 5 games this year.
Kip, let me put you on the spot here. Talk a little bit about the Bears. I get, you've mostly followed the Lions, but you've seen the Bears, obviously. You've seen them last year, how they're developing, some of the pieces they've picked up. How much of a jump can this team realistically make?
I mean, to me, it comes down to what DJ Moore and Justin Fields can do together. I think I watched the preseason game. To me, Justin Fields, I mean, he threw 3 screen passes and they went for 129 yards, right? I mean, he had 9 air yards, and everyone was making out, oh, this is the MVP we were talking about. To me, I wanted to see more out of Justin Fields. I wanted to see down the field throws. I wanted to see different things. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, they weren't playing that great of a Tennessee Titans team that has a vanilla defense, So, granted, they threw their starters out there for a lot of people against Tennessee. We'll see how it comes real ball time, because you're not just going to be playing vanilla defenses. Right. People kind of know how Justin Fields is now. They know he's running. They're looking for the dump and dive passes. To me, I mean, DJ Moore was a number 1 wide receiver in Carolina. So we'll see if it translates to the Bears. But my biggest thing watching Justin Fields many times at OSU, he was up and he was down. It was, can he hit the deep balls or can he? There'd be some times where he'd deliver it perfectly, put it on a dime, and then there'd be other times he would be off 5 or 10 yards. So to me, it comes down to this Justin Fields, DJ Moore connection. If that doesn't work, because everything out of training camp is they're connecting and they're doing great things. Well, that's great, but they're also playing against their own team. There's upgraded teams in the NFL that are better than the Bears and them. So we'll come to find out. I'll admit it right on air. I'm a Justin Fields hater. I just like Tone said, he's a running back with an arm, and history's proven you can only run in this league for so long before something either drastic happens or it just wears on your body. So it's on Justin Fields, and we'll see where it goes. But I don't think he's an MVP quarterback this year. I just don't see it. There's too many good quarterbacks in the league this year for him to even be considered an MVP.
One thing I see it a little bit in the chat here. You think about the 2 games the Bears had against Detroit as an example. Fields terrorized the Bears the first game. The Lions first game. Second game, first quarter, he has like 100 yards rushing. Towards the end of the first quarter, he hurts his leg a little bit. He still plays, still mobile, but not nearly as mobile, and his effectiveness went way down. After that, he was a sitting duck, especially behind that Bears line. Peter, you worry about maybe repeating as NFC North Kings. Do the Bears and Justin Fields scare you?
No, not at all. I'm with you guys. Did Justin Fields learn how to throw this offseason? Like, he's not a good passer of the football. Simple as that. He lived off the play action at Ohio State, and he also had a million first-round wide receivers he was thrown to against inferior competition in the Big Ten most of the time. He's a bad passer. Now, people are comparing him, well, like, look at Jalen Hurts. Look at the jump he made. It's like Jalen Hurts can throw the ball 1,000 times better than Fields ever has. Like, in college, that was very evident. But he does have a good, I like DJ Moore. DJ Moore is absolutely a number 1 wide receiver. He will bail him out a bunch this year. He'll throw the ball up. DJ Moore will make a play, and it'll be like, what the hell, man? Fields is a lot faster than people think. Now, hopefully everyone in the league has adjusted, because I think that's where he killed everybody last year. It was like, oh, God, this guy is way faster than he looks. He would just run by people. So, but the Bears schedule is brutal. Green Bay week 1, at Tampa, at Kansas City, Denver, at Washington, Minnesota, then at the Chargers, at the Saints, Carolina, at Detroit, and Minnesota. Like, they got back-to-back bad games against good defensive fronts that are going to really make Fields struggle, run for his life. Like you said, the offensive line did not improve at all. Wright was my worst tackle in those top tackles. and they picked him for some reason. Just had a mediocre camp, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't fear the Bears at all. I think everyone's pumping them up. Now, maybe they're a good bet in Vegas. I didn't look at their win total. I think it's like 6.5. So, hey, maybe the Bears get 7 wins and you're cashing out there. But this team is not a threat to win this division unless Justin Fields learned how to throw again. But again, like you said, 9 yards passing in the air for those 2 touchdowns. Like, that's nothing. I could have thrown those touchdown passes.
My worry for Justin Fields is we may never know if he could be good or bad just because the Bears aren't protecting him at all. And if it's anything like last year, it's just for a mobile quarterback to take hit after hit after hit, that's going to wear on that body faster than anything. All right, we've talked about the Bears and Justin Fields and everybody else. All right, I get nobody here wants to talk about this team, but, they are one of the 4 teams in this division. So, Peter, give us your quick thoughts on Green Bay.
What to say, Green Bay? Well, they lost Aaron Rodgers, and I'd be furious if I'm watching Hard Knocks right now. Rodgers seems like a lovely human, just a great guy to root for, great teammate. None of the stuff that we heard out of Green Bay the last 2 seasons about how he's toxic. Listen, it's going to be really simple. Brett Favre averaged 10 wins a season. Aaron Rodgers averaged 10 wins a season. There is a almost 0 chance that Jordan Love's going to be that guy. You just don't have that in the NFL. The defense is good, but they're getting old. Jair Alexander lives as a merchant of I talk a big game and then they put help over the top from me so I look good on my numbers. If you put him one-on-one coverage, not as scary as people make him out to be. The D-line's getting old. They need that pass rush. I know they have guys come back. I think Green Bay is kind of like, we'll see what Jordan Love gives us. If we can win 10 games and win the division, great, he's our guy. If not, we'll pull the plug early, get really bad really quick, and hey, there's 2 top quarterbacks at the top of the draft next year. We can go take a 3rd Hall of Fame quarterback and just forget Jordan Love. He never even existed.
Right. Kip, I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about Green Bay. So tell me, is Jordan Love set up to fail, or is that defense strong enough to be able to get this kid some wins?
I feel like Jordan Love's kind of been in a better position than what Justin Fields came in as. Green Bay's always had a decent defense. I think Rashawn Gary will be back this year, so that'll kind of help their pass rush a little bit. They lost some people on and off. I mean, my big thing is, can he get the ball to the playmakers? You got Watson, I think it's Watson, and you got Romeo out there, and then they drafted my boy Jaden Reed from Michigan State, who was a 1,000 receiver just 2 years ago. So, he has no excuses to make plays, right? But the thing is, like, we've only seen minimal snaps from this guy, so we don't really know what to expect. He might come out and light the league up. He might come out and just be a stinker. We don't know. I think the only thing that'll save him is that defense will keep them in games where he might have to make 1 or 2 plays. And, of course, we only see minimum things out of camp, right? We keep seeing the deep ball throws to Watson and all these guys, and it's like, okay, how many of these throws is he really making? Or is the media making this out to be like, hey, Jordan Love is really that guy, but the Green Bay Packers never gave him a chance because Aaron Rodgers was this horrible human being? We don't know. I guess we'll see week 1 against the Bears, but even then, I'm not even going to judge him against the Bears because I want to see him play a real defense. I just don't know what to expect out of Green Bay. I don't have them winning a lot of games this year, honestly. They have a brutal schedule. Like Peter said, they have a brutal away schedule. I have them losing the Lions at least twice. Where they're going to they could lose to the Bucs. They could definitely probably lose to the Saints. They got the Giants, the Chargers. These are all teams that should be atop of their division come end of the season, and we'll see, But yeah, I feel like this team's just gonna have to ride on Jordan Love, and I don't know if he's built for it just yet. So, but like you said, hey, pull the plug on Jordan Love. We got Caleb Williams sitting up there at 1, or 2. Right. So it's a win-win situation in Green Bay if you think about it, because if Jordan Love succeeds, they look like, they had the great backup behind Aaron Rodgers. If they lose, hey, we got a number 1 Heisman candidate up at number 1. We'll just go up and get him, and we'll see what happens.
Sarge, I mean, you're looking at Green Bay. Yeah, I get everybody's throwing shade at them, thinking that, since they've gone from 2 back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks to now Jordan Love, how much can this defense save the season, or is Love going to actually do something?
I don't know if Love's going to do a lot, but they do have a very good run game too. They still have Jones back there and Dillon. And, I don't think the defense is going to let them lose enough games for them to get a top pick. You've got some really bad teams out there right now, like the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're kind of done with Kyler Murray. I don't see Arizona winning more than a couple of games all year. I just don't think Green Bay. I think Green Bay's defense is a top 10 defense, and I think they're going to win games for these guys. If Jordan Love just doesn't make mistakes, he doesn't have to get 300 yards passing. If he just doesn't turn the ball over, the defense is going to take over and win some of these games. So I really think Green Bay, I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. I don't think they're going to win 10, but I don't think they're going to be in position to get one of those top quarterbacks next year, unless one falls
or a trade,
which
something.
We never, or they trade. Obviously, they can trade. So, but I don't think they'll finish like one of the top, or not top, one of the worst 5 teams in the NFL. So I think they're going to win. I'd say they could probably pull out 6 or 7 wins. And that's with Jordan Love just being mediocre.
Just real quick, after their schedule, let me just run through this. They have a bye week 6, so early bye, very soft early schedule, minus the Lions, really. But then they're at Denver, Minnesota, the Rams, at Pittsburgh, the Chargers, at Detroit, the Chiefs, at the Giants, Tampa at home, at Carolina, at Minnesota, and then Chicago. That is a awful down the stretch schedule, especially if the Broncos are good and if the Giants are competent. I mean, right. Chiefs and Chargers at home, those are 2 easy losses for a team. Your defense is not stopping either of those offenses, probably.
No, correct.
At Pittsburgh, I'm a big believer in Pittsburgh this year, so they could start off really hot, and the hype's going to be there, and I think they fall off a cliff just looking at the schedule.
All right, so we've gone through all the teams now. Hey, let's get to the fun part, the meat of the show here. This is really why everybody's tuning in, watching. Real quick, If you haven't yet subscribed to our show, Lions Talk Live or Peters or any of them, take time on your day. Just go ahead and hit the subscription button, leave a thumbs up, and keep throwing some questions at us. Let us know your predictions for each of the teams' victory totals in the NFC North. And if you want, maybe even throw us the order, who's going to be first, second, third, and fourth. All right, so I tell you what, Kip, we're going to let you go first. Give us your order for who's going to win and who's going to come in last in the North. And give us a little bit of a breakdown on each of the teams.
Obviously, I'm going to go with the Lions number 1. Obviously, One Pride were probably the best to go. I'm going to take Green Bay second. I think the Vikings will finish third, and I got the Bears fourth. Obviously, we've kind of touched on Green Bay. I think they're probably the second best in line, to kind of finish or maybe give a scare to the Lions. I don't know, but I think the Lions could run away with it early. Minnesota still has weapons. They're proven. Defense has gotten worse. But I still think they got enough offense in that repertoire to win games. I mean, they won 5 games off field goals last year. So, if they keep it close and they got to win games off field goals, they can do it. And then just the Bears, a lot of what ifs. Can Fields be what he is, or Fields be what he is? How good is the DJ Moore connection, stuff like that? I still think they're 2, maybe 3 years out from being competitive. So I just got them finishing last in the North.
Okay. Peter, you're up next. Same thing. Tell us your order and give us a little bit of feedback on each of the teams.
Okay, I have to pick the Vikings. It's my obligation to. I think the Lions and the Vikings actually tie at 10-7. So I think it'll come down to the tiebreaker and that last game of the season. Maybe it's the Vikings finish 9-8, and the Lions are 11-6. I think it comes down to that final game in Detroit. So I'll go Vikings 1, Lions 2. I think the Bears will be 3, and I think the Packers are in last here. But I think there's not much difference between the Packers and the Bears. I mean, God help us if Jordan Love turns into a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I think it's just kind of I don't think the division's going to be terrible. I just think it's not going to be very good at the top end. I think it's going to be max for the teams in the division are 11 wins. And then the floor is probably 6 wins, maybe 7. So not a high ceiling, not a low floor for anybody in this division. The division plays a tough schedule. It's a tough schedule. We got the AFC West and the NFC, it's just the NFC South. I mean, I guess that's okay, but the AFC West is brutal. So I go Vikings, Lions, Bears, Packers.
All right, fair enough. Sarge, let's hear your breakdown. Give it to us.
Obviously, Detroit's going to win. I mean, let's not
Lions Talk Live.
Let's not get crazy. I kind of go. I have the same thought as Kip does. I think the Pack, with their defense is still going to be tough. So I'm going to put them 2, Vikings 3, and the Bears last. I'm more of a defensive guy, and a lot of times I talk. So I think the reason the Packers are going to be over the Vikings is the defenses. The Packers have a really good defense, and the Vikings don't. So, the Bears, like I said, they're still at least a couple years away because they have pieces, but they don't have them all put together yet. And they're not going to get a lot of points if that offensive line doesn't get better. So, Lions, Pack, Vikings, and then the Bears.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Lions first place, and I think one of the biggest reasons for me is a twofold one. I think our offensive line, not to say something that hasn't been said 1,000 times before, but I look at the other teams in the division. Chicago, we've talked about their offensive line's trash. Green Bay's, I thought last year, especially later in the year, you could see where age has really crept into that particular unit in Green Bay. I think they do have a very good defense. I think they got some developing young skill players. But my worry for if I'm one of the other 3 teams in the division is the Lions' ability to protect and then also get after quarterbacks. And I actually think Minnesota has a chance to be second place this year. The one thing that worries about things for me is their ability to keep Cousins upright and their ability to play defense and stop enough teams where that offense can shine. Beyond that, I'm going to probably say Green Bay's third place. Jordan Love, I just think he's got the weight of the world on him, and it's just an unfair position for him to be in. But that's life. He's going to have to replace Aaron Rodgers and be in the shadows of Brett Favre's statue that should be out there. But whatever it is, this kid's got unrealistic expectations thrust upon him, and I just think them and the Bears are going to be a dogfight for last place. So,
and I will say, it all depends too with the Packers what they do with Bakhtiari, right? We all hear rumors that the Jets need offensive line help. Bakhtiari, Aaron Rodgers, their best friends. Could he get traded? That could be a nightmare for Jordan Love. That could change the division too, because if Jordan Love doesn't have time to throw the ball, that run game doesn't really do good. I mean, there's things that could change. There's trades that could happen to change this. But, if Bakhtiari ends up out of Green Bay, I don't know how good Jordan Love's really going to be, because that's a nice piece to have, as a young quarterback coming in. And if he goes out to New York, it could get ugly for Jordan Love quick.
It's probably a strong sign what the Packers think their season's going to be like and which direction they're going. So not a good endorsement for Jordan Love. All right, one last thing, and then we'll probably wrap this up. Each of us, let's pick a team and just talk about maybe a rookie or 2 if you want to watch on the teams. Peter, we're going to let you go first. Give us a rookie or 2 from the Vikings that you think could stand out and shine this year.
Well, obviously Jordan Addison, if he gets going as a number 3 option or number 2, I mean, his route running is fantastic. Everyone's going to be covering JJ. He'll get soft looks one-on-one, and Cousins and him have a really big chemistry connection so far through camp from what I've seen. Another guy, undrafted linebacker out of Cincinnati, Ivan Pace Jr. I was huge on him in the draft. Somehow he was undrafted. He's not only is he making the team, he might be a starter. He looked really good against Seattle in the first preseason game. He's fast, he fits gaps, he tackles well. So he could really fix things really quickly for this Vikings defense if we get a game wrecker up the middle at linebacker with Pace. So Pace and Addison for the Vikings are 2 guys I'd look out for.
Okay. Kip, you got anybody? You pick any of the teams. Give us some rookies.
I mean, obviously I'm going to go with my boy Jaden Reed. Unfortunately, he got drafted to Green Bay, one of the worst spots. I wish he would have never ended up. I would have bought his jersey, but now he's a Packer. I'm never buying his jersey until he gets traded. But, for me, I mean, I think he kind of fits in a nice wide receiver room. You got Dubes, and then you got Watson out there. And anyone knows watching him at Michigan State, he was a 50-50 guy. You can go up and make plays, and he made a couple nice plays in the preseason game. So, for me, obviously, I'm going to keep my eye on Jaden Reed. I think he'll have a nice little season out there. Could potentially be a 1,000-yard receiver, a couple years down the road for Green Bay, and we'll see how it goes. But obviously, that's where my eyes are right now. I mean, not obviously my team, obviously with the Lions, Gibbs and all those guys, but I think I'll be looking too for Jaden Reed. So,
okay, Sarge, what you got?
Well, I don't even know who the Bears drafted other than Darnell Wright, so I'm not going to talk about them. So I'll go with the Lions, obviously, and I'm a big fan of Broderick Martin, the defensive tackle. I think he's going to be a monster in the middle. I think the offensive line talks highly of him, and you got 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line that say this kid has what it takes, and that's all I need to hear. Plus, obviously, the coaches are high on him too. So I think he's going to be a great one. And we've got a couple of undrafted rookies ourselves that are making a splash in camp on the defensive side. So it'd be pretty interesting to see one of those guys, or maybe both of them, even make the team. Talking about Starling Thomas and the fifth, and Gilmore. So we'll see how those guys pan out. I know we can't keep all of them, so maybe only one of them makes team. Maybe the other guy goes to the practice squad.
Sure.
But other than that, I mean, and obviously the easy, obvious ones. Campbell's gonna be a star. I think Gibbs has already been labeled a star, even though he hasn't played a game yet. So I'm looking forward to that. But like for the Bears, I don't even remember who they drafted. So sorry about that.
Roshan Johnson, running back out of Texas for the Bears, sleeper running back, could possibly slide in, especially if Herbert. I think Herbert got a little nicked up, but that's a guy he backed up. He backed up Bijan, so he's not going to get a lot of hype backing up the top back. So, but he's solid. He's definitely solid. He had a good preseason game. So there's a Bears guy for us.
All right,
and he's got some wheels too. I remember he was one of the people I mocked. I don't remember who I had picking, but he's a good running back, and like you said, got overlooked. Not a lot of wear on his body because he didn't get a ton of reps in college. But my picks, I'm going to go right off the bat with Campbell, middle line. I'm guessing he'll be the middle linebacker, the Mike for the Lions. The fact that in the very first preseason game, they gave him the green dot, let him do line adjustments, just the secondary, to me, that tells me Campbell, Aaron Glenn, they see a lot of potential in this kid, and they're going to probably give him more reps these last 2 preseason games. Just if they're already giving him those responsibilities, they're prepping him for Kansas City and throughout the season, letting him make those calls live on the field when the regular season gets here. It would be easy to say Gibbs is going to be a weapon, whatever you want to call him, running back, slot receiver, whatever. But that kid, it's a real possibility. I think the Lions could have maybe not winners for offensive and defensive rookies of the year, but I think those two could be in the running for it. So, all right, we've bored you all long enough for nearly 40-plus minutes here. So we'll get this thing going, ending it out here. Let me tell you, why don't we all go through, talk a little bit about your channels. Peter, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I'm at After the Review Sports on YouTube. Like I said, I cover all sports stuff. Getting into football season, I'm working on my preseason breakdown of all the teams, all the divisions. I go through and pick every game on the schedule and get my results off of that. So I'm working on that one right now. And yeah, so if you want to check out other sports or just not just Vikings coverage of me, I'm at After the Review Sports on YouTube.
All right. Kip Bayless, why don't you tell us a little bit about yours?
Same thing, just a sports media guy. We have a radio station now. It's called Catch My Vibe. Website is CMV respectively. It's out of Jackson, Michigan. I do have my podcast. It'll be called The Final Whistle. Just kind of getting things ready, built up here for football season. So, if you guys want to swing on over, we do have a Facebook page. Drop a follow, drop a like. And, that's kind of what I'm building right now. So.
Okay, and then Lions Talk Live, obviously, us, we come at you every Sunday. Don't forget, we're going to have the opening game of the NFL season at Main Street Pub in Kalamazoo, Michigan on West Main. Feel free to stop in for the pregame show, the halftime festivities, and then the postgame show. If you're around, we'll get you on the mic, get you on there to ask some questions, whatever it may be during the show. But the Sarge, Tony Libretto, and I will be out there doing the play-by-play throughout that and most away games. We'll give you guys a complete schedule as it evolves, but plan on Kansas City game at Main Street Pub, Kalamazoo, Michigan on West Main. So I want to thank you all for tuning on in. Again, if you haven't yet subscribed to these individual channels, please take a moment and go and do so. Leave a comment, a thumbs up, and all that. Take care. Good luck to your teams in this NFL coming season, and we'll see you next time on Lions Talk Live.
Have a good night.